Imagine stepping into the world of the early 1800s. A time when horses were still the primary method of transportation, roads were muddy and unreliable, and traveling long distances could take days or even weeks. Now imagine that in one small European country, a revolutionary idea was beginning to change everything forever. That country was the Netherlands. Today, many people associate advanced railways with Japan and its world-famous bullet trains. The image of sleek Shinkansen trains racing across the Japanese countryside has become a symbol of modern transportation. But what if I told you that the Netherlands was building railways decades before Japan even started its first train line? This is the fascinating story of how Dutch railways came before Japan's and helped shape the future of transportation around the world. To understand this story, we must first travel back to the Industrial Revolution. The early 19th century was an age of innovation. Steam engines were transforming industries, factories were expanding rapidly, and European nations were searching for faster ways to move people and goods. The United Kingdom pioneered the first modern railways, proving that steam-powered locomotives could transport cargo and passengers much more efficiently than horse-drawn wagons. The success of British railways quickly captured the attention of neighbouring countries. Among them was the Netherlands. At the time, the Netherlands was already an important trading nation. Dutch merchants had built a global commercial network, and the country relied heavily on efficient transportation to connect its cities, ports, and industries. Leaders and entrepreneurs recognized that railways could dramatically improve trade and economic growth. As a result, railway development began much earlier than many people realize. In 1839, the Netherlands opened its first railway line between Amsterdam and Haarlem. This marked a historic moment in Dutch transportation. Passengers who once relied on boats, horses, or carriages could now travel much faster and more comfortably. The railway was an immediate success. People were amazed by the speed of steam locomotives. Businesses quickly saw the economic advantages. And investors began funding additional railway projects across the country. Throughout the following decades, the Dutch railway network expanded rapidly. New lines connected major cities such as Rotterdam, Utrecht, The Hague, and beyond. Stations became centers of economic activity. Goods could be transported faster than ever before. Travel became more accessible to ordinary citizens. The railway was transforming Dutch society. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Japan was experiencing a very different reality. For centuries, Japan had maintained a relatively isolated political system under the Tokugawa shogunate. Foreign influence was tightly controlled. Traditional transportation methods remained dominant. Road networks existed, but there was little pressure to adopt the industrial technologies spreading across Europe. Everything began to change in the mid-19th century. In 1853, Commodore Matthew Perry of the United States arrived in Japan with a fleet of warships. His arrival forced Japan to open itself to international trade and foreign relations. The event triggered profound political and social changes. Soon afterward, Japan entered the Meiji Restoration period. The Meiji government recognized that modernization was essential for national survival. Leaders studied Western technology, education, military systems, and infrastructure. Among the innovations that attracted significant attention were railways. Japanese officials observed how rail transport was transforming Europe and North America. They understood that efficient transportation would be critical for economic development and national unity. As a result, Japan began planning its first railway projects. Finally, in 1872, Japan opened its first railway line between Tokyo and Yokohama. This was 33 years after the Netherlands had launched its first railway. The opening ceremony attracted enormous public interest. For many Japanese citizens, the steam locomotive seemed almost magical. People gathered along the tracks to witness the arrival of this extraordinary machine. The railway represented more than transportation. It symbolized Japan's determination to modernize and compete with the world's leading powers. What happened next was remarkable. While the Netherlands had started earlier, Japan modernized at an astonishing pace. Railway construction accelerated across the country. Engineers imported knowledge from Britain and other European nations. Japanese workers learned new techniques and adapted them to local conditions. Within a few decades, railways connected major urban centers and helped drive rapid industrial growth. Factories expanded. Trade increased. Population mobility improved. The railway became one of the foundations of modern Japan. By the 20th century, Japan was developing a reputation for engineering excellence. This process eventually led to one of the greatest achievements in transportation history. In 1964, Japan introduced the Shinkansen. Known internationally as the Bullet Train, the Shinkansen became the world's first high-speed rail network. Its speed, safety, and reliability amazed the world. The system revolutionized rail transportation and inspired high-speed rail projects across multiple continents. Meanwhile, the Netherlands continued improving its own railway infrastructure. Dutch railways became known for efficiency, dense network coverage, and strong integration with urban transportation. Today, both nations possess highly advanced railway systems. Yet their journeys began in very different circumstances. The Netherlands embraced rail technology during the early Industrial Revolution. Japan adopted railways later but transformed them into one of the most sophisticated transportation systems on Earth. The comparison reveals an important lesson about technological progress. Being first is not always what matters most. The Netherlands deserves recognition for adopting railways decades before Japan. But Japan demonstrates how determination, innovation, and continuous improvement can turn imported technology into something truly extraordinary. From steam locomotives crossing Dutch countryside in 1839 to bullet trains racing across Japan at incredible speeds, the story of railways is ultimately a story of human ambition. It is a story of nations seeking better connections, faster transportation, and greater opportunities. And it all began with a simple idea. What if people could travel faster than ever before? That question changed the world. And the answer can still be seen today on railway tracks stretching across both the Netherlands and Japan. Thanks for watching.